Hey guys, Brooke and Laura here for Legal Talk Tuesday. And today, education is one of our core missions here at MyVirtual.Lawyer. And we want you all, our clients, Arkansas consumers, to understand what your options are with legal services, what types of things are important to learn about for you and for your family, as well as your business, your health, and even your death, which is uncomfortable to talk about. But today we are going to give you 6 tips that are going to give you some peace of mind, knowing that things are in order for the eventual certainty of death. So welcome to Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. So the first thing that's important is to gather all of your important contact information and documents together in one place so that it's easier for your loved ones to find later. You know, number one, that's important for you. Not everybody has all that information in one place just in general. So if you need to find something, sometimes you have to hunt for it. So it's good for you while you're living, but it's also really good for your family and your loved ones after you're gone. You need to know what you have, that's very important, and where things are. When you're working on estate planning, there are 2 things to consider. Making sure things that are as easy as possible on your loved ones who just lost you, and making sure that your things and your children go where you want them to go. So having all your documents, doctor's information, financial advisor, bank account information, all of that together is going to help streamline your process for planning and also your loved one's process during grieving after you're gone.
Yes, so that's very important. Keep up with those things. I know we talk to a lot of people and they don't know where a lot of those important documents are, or, if we provide those for them, they don't necessarily distribute them. So the second thing, execute your last will and testament. So a will is a really super important document where you get to tell everyone where you want your things to go. So you're talking from beyond the grave. If you are single, married, have children, don't have children, it does not matter. You need a will. That's a common misconception, that you don't need one because you don't have things. You need a will. So if you have children specifically, you can even use your will, like Laura kind of alluded to earlier, to tell the legal system who you prefer to be the legal guardian of your children. So they still have to go through all the proper legal channels to make it official and file the documents and have it approved by court. But someone's wishes typically hold a lot of weight with the judge and with the courts. So that's a really important thing that you can do with your will that not a lot of people know. In general, you need to get to direct your home, your money, your cars, jewelry, clothes, sentimental items, all those types of things. You need to kind of direct them to where you want them to go. And that can be as simple as just kind of a general, everything goes here, or you can be very detailed. And if you have a specific piece of jewelry that you want to go to a specific person, and I'll add to that too, I get a question a lot from people, they're nervous to put things in there because what if they sell their car, or what if they don't have that in there? Everything else will still stay intact. That will just be removed like it wasn't even there. So
exactly.
Clarify that. I get that question really frequently.
Yep, things can be adjusted and like Brooke said, if it's not there, then it's not there. It's, the hope is that everything is, amicable and your kids aren't fighting over things when you're gone, but this is a good way to protect them from themselves sometimes as well. Other important documents that are really, really key for you to have, and I think one of the most important documents to have is a living will. But you need to complete the living will and the powers of attorney, which we'll talk about in a second. A living will is one of the most important documents that you can have. Besides just the regular will, a living will, sometimes called a healthcare directive. It's, most of us have really strong feelings about what we want to happen to our bodies in emergency and life-saving situations when you might not be able to talk, whether it's a car accident or whatever it might be. You can't always be the one to verbalize, hey, I want you to give me oxygen, or I want you to put me on a feeding tube, or yes, I want you to perform this kind of surgery, that kind of thing. We've all seen those medical dramas where doctors or families have to make decisions on your healthcare when you can't. And I don't know about you, but I want to make them for myself. I don't want to put them in that situation. And I also really, have the desire to decide who gets to do what with my body. So, excuse me. Lovely allergy cough that I continue to have with drainage. So that's, a very important document. Having that properly executed, and you can file it with the hospital, that kind of thing if you're a regular patient there, with your doctors, but also make sure that your family members have copies of that so that if, there's ever a question about what you want, you can have that kind of in writing. The powers of attorney, people, I think, hear that phrase very often, and you might not know that there are two separate documents that you need to have. A power of attorney for your financial, which is what most people think of, is, power of attorney giving somebody the ability to help you in financial situations, whether it's accessing your bank accounts, paying your bills, whatever it might be. But also there's a power of attorney for healthcare decisions. And that kind of goes along with the living will. It cannot overrule the living will. So somebody can't say, oh, I want you to do this when your living will specifically says that you don't want that done to you. But the power of attorney for healthcare purposes allows people, especially, people think about that kind of stuff for older people. I've been using the word people a lot, I just realized, but you think about that a lot for older people, but it's really important for younger people too, because you don't know what's going to happen. With our current pandemic that we've been in for 400 months now, it's the unknown is very real. And if you're 20, you might end up in the hospital on a ventilator, whether it's from COVID or whether it's, car accident, that kind of thing. So having somebody who has the ability to make decisions for you on, surgeries, that if there's something with that, whether it's organ donations, whether it's, whatever it might be, if you don't have it written down elsewhere, then it's important to have that. But also, think about long-term nursing care, with people with dementia or Alzheimer's. You need to have those kinds of things in place before there's a problem, so that you don't have the problems with the legal situation after the fact.
Absolutely. And you also want to make sure that you're updating your beneficiaries for life insurance and planning final arrangements with your bank account, whether that's a payable on death account, where you have funeral expenses, organ donation, all those things kind of need to be in order. So you need to think about things like, have you, been in the same job for 20 years, opened up a new financial account? You want to make sure that you go back to all of your accounts to update beneficiaries if you have children. Maybe you got divorced, things like that. And if you have a trust, your beneficiary on many of the accounts needs to actually be the trust. I had an experience early on in my legal career, and I had done some estate planning for a lady in South Arkansas, and she had all of her things in order and did all the things that we have said here, and passed away unexpectedly about a year after, and she had forgotten about one of her life insurance accounts. And her and her daughter had a falling out. She did not want anything to go to her. It was very clear. All the things were set in place for that. And there was more money that was needed for the actual funeral. Well, she had forgotten about a life insurance, and she had not gone and updated it. And so all went to her daughter, who was the beneficiary at the time that she had taken out the policy. And so it was very difficult for the executor of her will and other family members to kind of get things done and get things together to actually get her funeral taken care of. And there was a lot of fighting. So that's the kind of thing we're trying to help you foresee and prevent. So just make sure that you're really keeping up with those things, like we said earlier, and that you are updating those things as things change in your life.
Exactly. Another thing that people don't often think about is passwords. So, tip number 5 is secure your digital accounts. And what I mean by that is really have passwords and things like that accessible, easily accessible, not necessarily for the random hacker, but for whoever needs to access those accounts, Facebook, Amazon, any kind of purchasing that you do online, those kinds of things. Make sure that they have access to accounts and PIN numbers and things like that, so that it's easier after your death for your loved ones to go in and shut things down, close out accounts, whatever it might be, because, it's very difficult if they're going to have to fax, because it's 2020, why wouldn't we still fax? But if they have to fax copies of death certificates, so, that kind of thing. So it's a lot easier if you just have it kind of all in one place. Your will's not going to be in an unsecure location. So whether that's in a lockbox in your house or in a, bank or wherever it might be. So those passwords and stuff should be kind of a part of what you hand out to people and what you keep for yourself.
Right. And lastly, we know it's difficult, but you need to talk to your loved ones about your wishes, especially if you are appointing them to handle any of your affairs. So the conversations are hard, they're difficult, but they really need to be had. The more your family or the responsible people that are in your life are aware of things like your healthcare emergency life-saving services, whether you want to be cremated or buried or both, things of that nature, the better chance that the stress of having to make those decisions kind of relieved off of those individuals. So make sure that you have those conversations and that that you're talking to people after you've appointed them to these things, but also ask them ahead of time to make sure that they're willing to perform some of these things if you're going to appoint them to execute your will or manage your trust or access your Facebook account. Just make sure that they know that they're your person and that they consent to that as well. But that's it for today. Thank you so much for listening. We know these aren't necessarily the most popular topics to talk about. They're not super fun, especially for younger people. But they are some of the most important things to discuss and kind of lay out while you are competent and you do have the ability to have a say in those things. Next Tuesday, we're going to be here at 11:30 Central. So join us then and hope you guys have a great week. Thanks. Bye.